Clairvoyant is a name given to a person who is able to use both brain hemispheres to think with, either one, depending on the need. You need to function in the physical dimension, use the left brain hemisphere. You need to function in the mental or spiritual dimension, use the right brain hemisphere. Now, to be able to understand what happens when you learn to use the right brain hemisphere, is something compared to what we can understand or can easily explain what a radio is. For instance, we know that here in space is a lot of information as transmitted by radio transmission, but we cannot perceive it because we don't have the instrument that detects it, means perceives it, and translates it or transfers it to another dimension where we can hear it, see. Now that's a radio receiver. Well, the right brain hemisphere is something like that. It perceives information, spiritual information, meaning invisible but energetic information with the right brain hemisphere, and converts it to energy that the left one can detect and can understand. So now we have communication between the left and right and the right and left brain hemispheres. Now, if we were not using the right brain hemisphere, we're stuck only with one type of perception. We don't have dual type of perception systems. So then we said that a person, clairvoyant person, one who has learned to use both brain hemispheres, is able to perceive more information that one can use for more problem-solving applications or situations. Now, in teaching a person to become clairvoyant, meaning if we find that 90% of humanity are not using the right brain hemisphere, we say these are the unlucky people. The ones that are using the right brain hemisphere are lucky because everything comes easy for them. And it's simply because they perceive more information that they can use and solve more problems with. We are here to solve problems. Everything needs to be considered as a problem, and everything needs problem-solving applications. Whatever you're doing, as you get up from bed in the morning, you're a troubleshooter. You want to solve problems all day long. You meet with a problem here, you meet a problem there, everything's a problem. You need to find solutions. And solutions means being able to adjust to the environment or cause the environment to be adjusted to you. In psychology, it said that if you cannot adjust to the environment, you're in trouble. Or if you cannot adjust the environment to yourself, you're in trouble. So you need to know to do one of two things. Either make changes in the environment to suit your needs, or you change your way of being to suit the environment, to be able to live comfortably. Well, in this case, a clairvoyant is more capable of doing all of this because the clairvoyant is using two dimensions for thinking, two sets of senses to perceive information with, and two brain hemispheres. He's doubling up on everything. The one who uses on the left one uses only one of each. He's limited. So we don't want to be limited. So how can we start training people to become clairvoyants? Well, to begin with, there's a method that one can use, oneself can use, which is explained in the book that we sold, you see. The first book that came out by Simon & Schuster, it's explained here, a step-by-step procedure, as what to do to be able to learn to become a clairvoyant. And what are we saying here? What is really needed? When we go to sleep, all we have learned to do, all people naturally have learned to do, is two things: either stay awake or go to sleep. But you don't stop any point along the way. You go right through sleep, which means what are the symptoms of being tired, or what are the symptoms of being sleepy? First, your eyelids become heavy and tired, that you cannot keep them open anymore. And your body wants to relax, wants to let go. And as soon as you close your eyes, you feel so good because you have trouble trying to keep them open. That means you need to sleep, you see. As you close your eyes, then your brain frequency starts decreasing. Your average brain frequency of a mature adult is always around 20 cycles or vibrations per minute. You see, we measure cycles like we do in radio, but we do it in basic units of measurement. We don't measure it in thousands or kilo cycles like in radio, or mega cycles like in television. We're talking about dealing with basic units of measurement, plain, simple cycles per second. So you're functioning on 20 vibrations on the average per second. This is where your brain functions. So as soon as you close your eyes, and you feel so good when you do so, You take a deep breath, and by gosh, you're gone. You start to slow down your brain waves. So they call this slowing down of brain waves, and going from the blue part of the band, the beta part of the band, it's on the chart here, go through the alpha, the green part, go through the theta part, and end up in the delta part. And delta part, you stay about 1 hour to begin with. Then you start coming up little by little, and then going through the same dimensions, and almost to awaken. That's one complete sleep and dream cycle. It takes 90 minutes to accomplish it. 45 minutes going in, and 45 minutes come out from wherever you went. Now, this is sleep and daydreaming, sleep and
Dream?
well, we call it dream cycling, okay? Sleep and dream cycling. But it goes from beta to delta, delta to beta again. Now, at beta, when you come out from the first cycle, you have a tendency to awaken, but you don't really. You kind of maybe turn around on your bed, or maybe you cough, or maybe you scratch yourself, and then go into another cycle. So on the average, we go through sleep and dream cycles, maybe 4, 5, or 6, depending on how long you sleep at night. But this is all we've learned to do. To cycle, sleep and dream cycle, in and out. You either stay awake or you're asleep. Now, we need to learn something else. We need to stop along the way. We need to stop on the subconscious level, the so-called subconscious dimension, to convert it into conscious dimension. And in order to do so, we start training ourselves. Self-training, you can do this. When are you, for instance, more closer to the alpha, which is the inner kingdom, which is the subconscious dimension that we want to learn to use consciously? When are we there the most? When we're about to awaken in the morning, when we have cycled in and out, go through so many sleep and dream cycles until the last one. You see, the first one, we go to the deepest level and stay about an hour there. Then we start coming up, and then we come up. An hour and a half. Then next, you don't go as deep as before. But it takes you an hour and a half anyway. You spend more time on each one of the other dimensions. And you do likewise, the third one. You don't go deeper than the second. And the fourth one, not deeper than the third and so on, until finally you're in the superficial, very close to awakening. You're between the alpha and beta. You're between the green and the blue bands on the chart. This is in the morning when you're about to wake up. You're ready to wake up and go to work again. Well, here, it's a lot easier to go into alpha without much trouble, because you satisfied your need for sleep. You don't need to go deeper sleep anymore. So if you could stay at that level for 15 minutes, when you wake up in the morning, all you do is keep your eyes closed and turn your eyes upwards about 45 degrees, usually, but 20 degrees is good enough. 20 degrees higher than the horizon, like so. And when you're in bed, of course, you go like so too. And keep them there with your eyes closed, and just count down from 100 to 1. This is to keep you from going to sleep again. Because you may want to go into alpha and forget what you're doing, you see. Because you go from one dimension to another, and whatever happened in the subconscious dimension, you don't remember. Because if you don't have control over it, it's called the subconscious, meaning what's happening here is happening below the threshold of consciousness. You don't remember it. That's what that means. So if you venture into here, you forget the counting and you don't gain anything. So you want to keep on counting to hold on to the control of your awareness, not to get away from you. So you count from 100 to 1 at the pace of 1 count per second. 100, 99, 98, 97, and so on, until you get to 1. It's always recommended that you do this when you have nothing to do during the day, because you might go to sleep again. You might stay in alpha, and you like that, and before you know it, you have lost your control. You must stay 15, 20 minutes there in alpha, because it's a very enjoyable level to be. You're not going to go into deeper than that dimension, because you satisfied the need for sleep. But then again, just in case, then you don't want to risk losing your job because you go late to work, you know. If you're doing it during the weekdays and work days, it's best to get up and set your alarm clock 15 minutes later, and then go and practice your exercises. At first, you may go to sleep, you know, meaning light sleep, alpha sleep, a very comfortable level of mind. But then when you're counting, you're preventing this from happening until you develop the controls to completely control your awareness, not to let it get away from you and go to sleep, because you're counting. Then you must do this 10 days. For 10 days, you count from 100 to 1 as a practice exercise. Then another 10 days, you go from 50 to 1. Another 10 days, you go from 25 to 1. Then you go from 10 to 1. Then finally, 5 to 1. 10 days each time. Now, by this time, you have perfect control in staying at alpha without going to sleep anymore. You see, the only two faculties of the right brain hemisphere, we want to establish points of reference when our awareness is connected or attuned to the right brain hemisphere. And when you have done this many nights, you're bound to be at alpha, where the connection is to the right brain hemisphere, where the connection exists. So now, the only two faculties of the right brain hemisphere are visualization and imagination. So we must start practicing with these faculties to establish points of reference with the use of these faculties. But now we must want to know first what is visualization and what are we going to practice as to enhance or to use that tool or that faculty to lock in on with the right brain hemisphere. Visualization, for instance. Well, visualization is recalling or going over the impressions that you have made on your brain of things that you have seen. Not going over and remembering things you have done. No. Going over the impression that you have made on your brain with your sense of sight. You see, when you see something, you make a copy of that and record it in your brain on neurons. So now you want to go over what you have impressed on your brain and describe it in full detail and color. Practice there once you get to 1 by recalling things you have seen, people, places, and scenes, and recall as much of them as you can and in full detail and color. Now you're practicing visualization. Visualization is seeing with your mind's eye, with your mind, what you have impressed on your brain through your biological senses, biological sense of sight. When you see with your biological eyesight is seeing. When you repeat and review this, you are visualizing. Anything you have seen and made impression of, you can recall it and describe it in full detail and color. You're visualizing, you're practicing visualization. Now, practicing visualization at 10 cycles per second or within the alpha range, you're establishing points of reference. You're establishing experiences of doing it with the right brain hemisphere. You're learning to use your right brain hemisphere. You're establishing points of reference to know where that is. So you will never forget again how to do it again if you want to. So from there on, whenever you have learned to do this and you want to visualize, you're going to visualize with the right brain hemisphere because you establish practice and experience. You develop experience in doing so. But you must have counted the way you're told until you slow down your brain waves. And when you've counted the way it's described in the book, you will find that that connection to the right brain hemisphere is where you're practicing visualization. Now, the first faculty to develop is visualization because it's the easiest thing to do, is recalling what you have seen and going over what you have seen in full detail and color. Now, when you do this, you're accumulating experiences here to make it easier for you. It's like tracing a road and establishing flags so you will know where to go to the next time. You will not lose your way anymore. Going and coming, you already have established a map. You mapped out the route and established flags to go by. Here, your experiences are is your plan, is your map to go to again whenever you want to. So from here on, whenever you decide to visualize, you go right to the right brain hemisphere. And it's interesting to note that when a person has not learned to use the right brain hemisphere, they visualize with the left one. So we can put an EEG on a person that's not a mind control graduate or a person that has not learned to become clairvoyant, and we can see the EEG that he stays on 20. But a person who has developed an ability to function with the right brain hemisphere, they want to visualize, they do it at 10. So you can see the EEG going to 10 then, you see. So that means that once they learn how to visualize on 10, human intelligence will never want to visualize on 20 anymore. Once you learn to develop the use of the right brain hemisphere, you're going to use it like you did the left one. I mean, there's no difference in anybody functioning. There's nothing that you notice as a difference when a person is using his right or left brain hemisphere after they learn to use it. The only difference would be that a person who uses the right brain hemisphere, when they're functioning at their level with their eyes open, they need to defocus their vision. Because focusing requires 20 vibrations of the brain. And when you want to focus, that pulls you out of 10, takes you to 20 again. So learning to defocus your vision and stay with your eyes open, you can stay functioning with your right brain hemisphere connection. You see, when you use your right brain hemisphere, and let's say that you need to close your eyes, of course, even if you're consciously awake, middle of the day, you need to close your eyes or defocus your vision to get to use the right brain hemisphere. Now, when you're connected to the right brain hemisphere, and you're perceiving information mentally in relation to the problem, first you want to analyze your problem. Notice, for instance, we're saying if a doctor, an MD, has a patient with a problem, and the doctor is in charge of solving the patient's problem. So the problem becomes the doctor's problem, because he needs to know that the patient's got a problem that he's got to solve, He's responsible for solving the patient's problem. So then the problem does not really truly belong to the patient anymore. It belongs to the doctor now for him to solve. Now, what is the doctor going to do? He wants to first analyze the patient to find out what kind of problem you're dealing with, to be able to know how am I going to approach correcting it. What tools do I need? What medications do I need to apply? Or whatever. So then the doctor starts analyzing the problem. Well, the doctor can analyze the problem of the patient even when the patient is not in his presence, when he uses the right brain hemisphere. When he's using only the left brain hemisphere, the patient needs to be in his presence. And the doctor needs to be in the presence of the patient, together, in other words. So then the doctor must use objective instrumentation, lab, and so forth, to be able to determine what problem am I faced with in trying to solve this patient's problem, see? So then, if he's using the left brain hemisphere, he's using physical means to analyze the problem, to arrive at a solution. When he's using the right brain hemisphere, he's using mental means, psychic means. Psychic means to determine what kind of problem he's dealing with, to be able to start selecting means to correct it. So now this is why we train our children to be able to develop their visualization when they're growing to 7 and 14 years of age, because the overall average brain frequency is within the connection to the right brain hemisphere. So if Papa and Mama can teach them to visualize, tell them what that is, and to practice it, while they're growing between 7 and 14, they're going to become natural clairvoyants. They don't need to go and take training later on in life like we teach people to do.